Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 7. Proverbs 22 and verse 7. The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. How to get out of debt. Let's pray. Father, thank you for tonight. Thank you for your word, very practical instructions for how to live life. Lord, help us to follow what you've given us. Help us to be prudent in all matters. We're called to be faithful. We're called to steward well. And Lord, certainly one of the things we must steward well is our finances, and I pray you give us wisdom in this time and guide as we look at your word. In Jesus' name, amen. There are a lot of factors related to debt and to getting out of debt. There are a lot of areas we could look at tonight, and we will in another message. One of the biggest areas is in this area of paying interest, and that's where we'll focus our attention tonight. I want you to fully understand what high interest rates can do to you. A lot of people never get out of debt because they do not understand how disastrous a high interest rate can be. Millions of people would never get into debt in the first place if they understood that. I'm going to be putting a lot of information up on our screens tonight because I want to drive this information home, and I want you to get a hold of these truths. And again, it's been a long time since we've dealt with finances. People have asked me if I'd redo it and do some preaching on this. And so I prepared a number of questions and answers and questions and charts and statements for this message. Actually, David and Dawn did. But to get things started, I have a 13-question quiz for you. Now, it's been a long time since you've come to church and had to take a quiz, so we'll see if we can get our slides to work there. Okay, suppose you owe $40,000 on your credit card bill. Yeah, hopefully you don't. This is a hypothetical, okay? And the interest rate is 25%. To pay it off in 40 years, your monthly payment is $833.38. How much extra would you have to pay every month to pay it off 5 years early? The clicker is not working. There you go. There are your choices. You're paying $830-some a month. You're going to pay it off 5 years early. How much extra would you have to put rather than just pay the minimum? Those are your choices. This isn't working. You guys may have to advance it up there. Oh, there we go. Let's see if we can. No, it's not working. It is jinxed. Oh, wow. Okay. We'll never know the answer. You may have to go help them. We're out of debt. David, where's David? David, you thought you got the night off. I think we might need you up there. So the answer's coming. We're just trying to make it suspenseful. We want to give you time to think, study. What's that? What am I supposed to do? What? We're back on. Okay, so let's see. It just keeps going backwards. See if we go. Okay. There's your questions. Are your answers? Now think of that. You're paying $800 and some a month, every month, and to knock 5 years of payments off, you pay a dime extra every month if your interest rate is 25%. That's what high interest does to you. That's why when you get in credit card debt, you're killing yourself financially. And then if you just pay the minimum or have a late payment, then have the penalty, and then your interest rate goes even higher, you're in serious trouble. Now, they love you. They want you to do that because you're the one that's helping them tremendously. Now, how much extra would you have to pay every month to knock off 10 years of payments? 10 years of payments. That's it. 45 cents. I mean, literally, if you just take that $800 and some odd payment and add 45 cents to it, you pay it off 10 years early. How much extra would you have to pay to cut your number of payments in half? So you're going to pay it off 20 years early now. There are your choices. See, some of you are just going to choose the lowest, so we can't allow you just taking cheap guesses. But there it is. $5.91 a month. And you're going to pay it off in half the time. In half the time. That's not much more than a cup of coffee at a coffee place or a hamburger. And you're going to pay it off 20 years early. 20 years early. Now, to pay an extra $5.91 for 20 years would cost a total of $1,418.40. That's all. How much money would you save overall by doing this? By paying that extra, just a little over $1,000. That's how much you'd save. By paying a little over $1,000 a month extra, or $1,000 total, $1,000 total extra, by paying just a little bit extra each month, you're going to save $198,592. You're going to save an incredible amount of money. But a lot of people get into the habit of paying just the minimum. And they think they're doing it good because they're freeing up money to spend it somewhere else. So they pay just the minimum every month. And then they wonder why they never get ahead. They wonder why they're always in debt. This is why you're always in debt. This is what kills you. This is what is going to hurt you. Now, if you have really good credit, and thus you get a really good rate, how much interest can you expect to pay if you get a cash advance on most credit cards? How much interest? What's your interest rate going to be? Now, it varies depending on your credit history, your credit score, things like that. But how much extra, or how much do you think you're going to have to pay just for a cash advance? It's a trick question. 23% or more. It wasn't up there. I have to keep it going so you guys don't cheat here. So you're going to pay more than 23%, sometimes 29% for a cash advance. Oh, I got a cash advance on my credit card. They're so nice to me. No, they want you to do that. They like it when you do that. In 1 month, John Doe, name changed to protect the not-so-innocent, charged $7,446.76 on his Visa card. How much is the minimum payment he's supposed to make? Now, that's a lot of money in 1 month, $7,500. So how much minimum do you think he ought to pay? I don't know what's going on. $1,200, $808, $256, or $148? Now think of that. He just charged $7,500. You would think the credit card company said, well, man, he's got to pay at least $1,000. He's got to pay at least $500. He just charged a lot. No, $148. Why? Because they want you to pay a very low amount. They want you to have a balance that you can't afford to pay off. They don't like it if you pay off the balance. They want to keep you in perpetual debt. They want you to just make the minimum payment. Next month, your credit card bill comes again. You've charged some new things, and now you owe more than $7,500. Now you maybe owe $8,000 or $9,000, and now your minimum payment is maybe $156. So, well, I made the payment. I'm making my payments on time. No, you're not. You're only making the minimum payment, and you're killing yourself with interest. You're digging a hole that's so deep that a lot of people never get out of it. Now, on a $40,000 bill at 21%, which many of you could easily have that rate on your credit card. Most people don't even know. They just charge it, the bill comes, they pay the minimum, they send it back in. But particularly if you've ever been late, if you've ever had penalties, if your credit score is not that good, your interest rate could be a lot higher than this. We're just taking hypothetical interest rates. But on a $40,000 bill at 21%, your payment is $700.17 a month for 40 years. So after 5 years of paying on this bill, you will have paid a total of $42,010.20. So you will have paid back more than you borrowed. You've been making payments for 5 years. You'll have paid back more than you borrowed. You think, man, I'm making progress. I've been paying on this for 5 years. So how much will you have paid off the balance that you owe? 5 years, paying more than you borrowed to begin with. How much will you have paid off? There you go. You borrowed $40,000. You've paid back $42,000. You've reduced your debt by $18.70. That's it. So after 5 years of faithfully making the payments, paying more than you even borrowed, you think, man, I'm making good headway. I about got this thing paid off. No, you don't. You haven't done anything. You're just treading water, going nowhere. High interest rates will kill you financially. If you put $1,000 in a savings account, leave it alone for 40 years at 6% interest. So you just put $1,000, 6% interest. At the end of 40 years, you have $10,285 in the bank or in your, say, whatever account you put it in. Now, if you triple the interest rate to 18%, how much do you think it'll be worth? It's worth $10,000 with 6%. You triple the interest to 18%. How much will it be worth now? That's what high interest rates do to you. I mean, it's good to get high interest rates. It's not good to pay high interest rates. But you think, what's the big deal? 6%, 18%, $10,000 or $750,000. Compounded interest will kill you if you're paying it. It'll make you very wealthy if you're receiving it. The borrower is servant to the lender. And there are a lot of Christians that end up in financial trouble because they just make these decisions and don't think anything of it. And the credit card company, the bill comes and they're happy that all they have to pay is $113 because the bill is real high, but $113, oh, good. No, that's not good. That's not good. You're hurting yourself financially. Now, suppose you buy a nice couch for $1,000. The owner of the store says, I'll make you a deal. Don't pay me anything for 40 years. At the end of 40 years, you can come back and roll a die. If it comes up a 6, you owe the $1,000 plus 25% interest through the years. If it comes up 1 through 5, you owe me nothing. Now, if gambling wasn't wrong, would this be a good deal for you or for him? If you roll a 6, you owe him $21,951,196.02 on a couch that you threw away 20 years prior. But people will buy consumable items and couches that are going to wear out, and they'll pay it on a credit card and pay the minimum. And so 20 years from now, you're still paying on a couch that fell apart or the cat shredded, that evil cat, and you're still paying. You don't realize you're paying on that because it's just this credit card that just keeps rolling over and you keep paying. But the truth is, you're still paying on a couch you bought 25, 30 years ago. That doesn't make sense. That's not good stewardship. It's not a good way to invest your money. Most people in debt are in debt to numerous creditors. Now, in 2022, American Express spent how much on advertising? Just advertising their credit card, trying to get more people to get their credit cards. How much do you think that they would just have a number in your head? How much do you think they would pay for just 1 year on advertising? They're not producing a product. They're not producing something they can sell that people buy. They're not making things. They're just simply cranking out more credit cards. How much do you think they'd spend in a year? $426 million. That's more than $1 million a day that they spend on advertising. Why would they do that? They're not stupid. It's not like they're just throwing this money away. They have no idea what they're doing. No, they know that as they advertise, boy, people want that credit card. And they advertise it as if this is going to make you, this is going to give you status and all this kind of stuff if you have their credit card. And often, and for a lot of young people, coming of age and getting to a credit card is almost a rite of passage. And the credit card comes in the mail. Oh, I have a credit card. Yeah, it's going to ruin you if you don't have sense how to spend it. 2022, J.P. Morgan Chase spent, that's the people that owe me 2 cents, by the way, spent how much on advertising? Tell you yes. $551 million. That's more than $1.5 million per day. More than $1.5 million per day. In 2023, Capital One spent how much on advertising? $650 million. That's more than $1.75 million per day on advertising. In 2023, Visa spent how much on advertising? $1.3 billion. Now that works out to $3,561,643.84 per day. Per day. Over $3.5 million per day on advertising. Just on advertising. They haven't made a product. They haven't produced something that's going to generate revenue because people buy it. They're simply just cranking out credit cards, advertising to get people to take their credit cards. That's $148,401.83 per hour. 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Just to advertise Visa. How can they afford that? And all of their nice big buildings. And their huge salaries for all of their different executives. Well, that's where you come in. You just simply pay the minimum every month. And they can afford to do this. This becomes very worthwhile for them. It becomes very lucrative. You pay their executive salary, you pay for the advertising, you help them build their big buildings, and they live happily ever after, and you live in debt. The borrower is servant to the lender. Again, we're not talking about things like debt on your house or cars. Obviously, some of those, it's an appreciable asset, assuming you didn't get your car new with no money down or your house with no money down. We're talking about just consumable things that aren't going to last. You have to live somewhere, and you need a house, and you need a car to get around. There's some necessities of life. But even there, you can be wise in how you purchase those things, or you can be foolish. Now, for a lot of people, if they were to put all of their debts down on paper, it might look something like this. So if they listed everything for people that are in debt to a number of, because people are happy to get another credit card, there's no balance owed on that, I can start charging on that. So that if you laid it all out, it might be something like that. And so you get to the place where you say, well, and you know, most people don't even ever tabulate this. They just keep going. The best thing you can do, if you're in debt and you want to get out of debt, then find out how much debt you're in. Ignorance is not bliss. To have no idea where you are, how much you're paying, how much you owe, how much your credit cards are, that's not bliss. That's naivete, and it's foolish. So you get all of your debts that you owe, and you put it on a piece of paper, a spreadsheet like this, and you are in debt $23,195.23. Now, with all of your minimum payments, you owe $1,001.27 just to keep the balance here and never charge another thing, which most people don't have the self-discipline to do this if they've got in this deep a debt to begin with. Okay, so what do you do? Where do you start? If this is what yours looks like, and maybe it looks worse, maybe it doesn't look as bad, but where do you start with something like this? The answer is simple. Don't worry, well, you should worry in a sense, but don't worry about the amount owed. Do worry about it, but don't worry about it for this. Just worry, focus in on one thing and one thing only, the interest rate. The interest rate. That's the only time you concern yourself about amount owed. The only time you concern yourself about amount owed is if two interest rates are the same. Otherwise, always focus in on the higher interest rate. Now, you're going to have to pay the minimum on all of your bills. All of these, if this is what your debt looks like, you're going to have to pay on all of your bills the minimum. But then you take the one that's the highest interest rate, you want to pay extra on that one. Now, you say there is no extra. Okay, then you may have to sell some stuff. That couch you've been paying on for 15 years, if it's not orange Naugahyde or something, you might be able to, you may have to cut back in some areas. When mom calls and asks you what you want for your birthday, say, I need cash to pay off these silly credit cards. You might need to carpool. You might need to have a garage sale. In the winter, you might need to put on a sweater and turn down the heat. In the summer, you may just need to sweat. You may need to work overtime. Get rid of your storage unit. Storage units are just money suckers. That's all they are. So you have all this stuff you've put in a storage unit because you can't fit it in your house or your apartment. And all the stuff you have in the storage unit, you paid $3,000 for. And you're paying $250 a month for this storage unit. Well, in 1 year, you've bought your stuff all over again. But it's still in the storage unit. There are some people that live life with a storage unit all the time like it's a vacation home or something. It's killing you financially. You're paying every month on this. And so year after year, when you add it up, you've paid thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. When you finally get to where you can pull some of it out for some reason, you've paid $20,000 for stuff that's not even worth $1,000 now. If you were to sell it at a yard sale, you might get $1,000 for it, and yet you've paid $20,000 to store it all these years. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't. You may say, well, some of it has nostalgic value, but it's killing you financially. If it has nostalgic value, take it out of storage, put it in the middle of your living room, you can see it every day, and get rid of your storage unit. Now, if you can afford storage unit and you like storage units, fine. But most people that have storage units can't really afford them. They're hurting themselves financially. And if you end that storage unit, whatever you pay for your storage unit, $98, $89, $115, depending on how big it is. I knew a lady had 5 storage units. I didn't find out till I did her funeral. But 5 storage units. 3 here and 2 up in Washington. And all her stuff stored there. And she was poor. She was storage unit rich, but she was cash poor. That's just a waste. And so if you're paying $150 a month for a storage unit, then sell the stuff, give away the stuff, do something with the stuff, quit paying on your storage unit, and take that $150 a month and pay ahead. You'll get ahead very quickly, or you'll get not as far behind. Skip lunch. Pack your own lunch. You say, well, I don't have a refrigerator, and I have to eat out every day. Don't then. Just skip lunch. Oh, I'd be hungry. Well, you won't be as poor. You say, well, I'm only paying $5 a day for lunch. I just get a hamburger and fries. That's all I get. That $5 a day, if you would put it ahead on your bill, really works out to maybe, depending on your credit score, depending on how much you're paying and all that kind of stuff, that might work out literally to $100 a day. Because if you would take and pay ahead the bill, the amount you would pay down through the years, that might be $100 a day. Now, is that lunch worth it? That hamburger and fries that you look forward to every day, is it worth it if it costs $100? Because in compounded interest, it very well might be costing you $100. Now, can you skip lunch? So when you go to work tomorrow, and you go to Joe's Hamburger Shack, you get your burger and you get your fries, and you're in debt, just look at it and say, $100 for this? They're ripping me off. And then on Tuesday, don't go to Joe's Hamburger Shack. I'm serious. This is how people just get themselves in financial trouble, and they can't figure out how to get ahead. They can't figure out what's going wrong. This is what's going wrong. And so any extra money that you get needs to go right here. That's where you're paying the highest interest, or wherever your highest interest is. And so even if you get $2 and you're paying this payment, put an extra $2 on it. Better you put an extra 10 or 20 or 30 because you're not drinking coffee every morning, you're not going to lunch, and you've sold some things. But everything that comes in Rather than say, oh, I got an extra, most people, they get a little extra money, they think, oh, we can go out to eat. No, don't eat your money. Do something with it. And so pay it ahead. And you're going to get that balance. You owe $2,230. That's very expensive. That's hurting you. So put all your money there. So once you pay that off, once you get that paid off, now you have an extra $76 every month. Not to go spend on something else. Not to run up a new credit card. Now, you put that extra $76 a month right there. That's 24.24% interest. And so your minimum payment is only $41, and they hope you'll pay that till you die. Now you're going to pay an extra $76 a month on top of that. And they're going to be upset with you. But you're going to get it paid off. And if you sold some things, brought in some money, canceled your storage unit, and you've done all that, you'll be able to pay off that $2,000 rather rapidly. And so then you take that money and you pay off the next one. Next one goes there. And the next one goes there. Now the 5th and 6th rates are the same. You pay off the smaller one first. Because first, it's encouraging, and then secondly, you have money freed up to do the next one. By this time, you've freed up $84.75 a month. So you've freed up a considerable amount of money now to pay ahead and get these debts out of the way completely. And so you can really start making progress. And once you paid off 6, you paid off 7, you're in good shape. 8 through 10 aren't the ones that are hurting you so much, even though 2 of the payments are large. Those payments are usually for a shorter period of time, except for student loan. Around 1 year sometimes for some of them, or sometimes it might be 2 or 3 or more. Sometimes a car payment you might be paying even longer than that. But your credit cards and your credit accounts might be 22 years or more if you don't do something. They want you to keep, they keep it where it's just where they're going to keep you on the hook forever. Whereas your car, you have to pay it off in 6 years or whatever it might be. And so you can sell a car if you need to say, I can't afford this payment, I'm just going to sell the car. And hopefully you don't take too much of a loss and take that money, pay that off, and then put that on something else. Now, your number 10 loan will cost you if you pay it off early. They already got you up front on this deal where you have 0% interest. So you think, man, I know how to buy a car, 0% interest. Well, they charged you more up front. They got you up front. So they're going to get it somewhere. And so now that you have this 0% interest, you don't need to give that money back by paying it off early. Now, it's nice in the sense that you get out of debt, but they're not charging you any interest on it. Put the $10,000 you owe on it in the bank, get interest from that, and you'll actually lose you'll make up some of your losses. So if you have debt today, so good debt is, for instance, buying a house or something like that, a car. You need to, you have to have a car that's dependable. You work in LA, whatever it might be. Those debts are part of life. When we bought this church, we came over here with really not very good credit because we were tied into the college. The college's debt was bad, their rating and stuff. So we came here with nothing. And at the time we approached the church, they wanted $1.2 million for this property. And I said, okay, we won't quibble about the purchase price if you'll take every dollar of our loan payments, our lease payments off the purchase. And they said, okay. So we basically lived here a year interest-free and paid $5,000 a month lease, and all of that came off the interest rate or off the purchase price. And then at the end of that time, we still didn't have any credit established because it had never been established. And so we had to do a bond program. And so those of you that were around back then remember. And so we actually went into debt to buy the property. Now, I know there's churches that say, well, we don't want to ever get into debt, and we're gonna just save up. And I know a church, a pastor friend, and they've been saving for 15 years to build a building. And people get discouraged and give up after a while. And then by the time you go to build the building, you save up $1 million, and it takes you 15 years. And at the end of 15 years, well, now it costs $2 million to build the building. So sometimes debt, for instance, $1.2 million, if we were to buy this campus right now without all of the improvements, it would be somewhere around $6 million, $7 million. The 2 acres next door, this is 2.8 acres. The 2.1 acres next door, they want $4.6 million for it. Some antiquated buildings that'll eventually fall down, and 2.1 acres, $4.6 million. And so sometimes going into debt is strategic, it's wise. You're starting a business, you need capital, you need to buy equipment, you need to, whatever it is. But just make sure you're making a good decision. You're wise about it. Don't just go into debt because someone's going to loan you money. There's a lot of people happy to loan you money because that's how they're able to live very wealthily, by making money off interest. And so, but if we had waited, said, well, let's wait till we can actually buy this thing, by the time we save up the 1.2 million, that's 2.5 million. By the time you save up that, then it's 4 point. And so at some time you go into debt, but then you manage it. You pay it off early. You try to do everything you can to pay ahead. And then you're not forever in debt. So there are a couple ways out of this, but bankruptcy is not an option. Not if you're a child of God. Psalm 37:21 says, the wicked borroweth and payeth not again. The wicked borroweth and payeth not again. But the righteous showeth mercy and giveth. Now, an exception would be in a divorce situation where the other spouse may run up huge debts, or in a business where a partner has done the same and they're not your debts, but someone is trying to stick you for them. And so sometimes you might have to do that to protect yourself. Declare bankruptcy so that you're not being charged with their debts. But if you ran up the debt, it's your responsibility to pay it. And I say, well, man, it's really hard. Yeah. It needs to be hard, because then you won't do it again, maybe. So if you ran up the debt, God says the wicked borroweth and doesn't pay. You don't want to be wicked. You don't want to do wicked things. And you might think, well, financially, this will put me ahead. You'll be outside of God's will. You'll be outside of God's blessings. You want to do things with ethics. You want to have character in what you do. It might be easy to just declare bankruptcy because the law allows it. You say, well, it's legal. You know how many things are legal that are wicked? Abortion's legal. Homosexual marriage is legal. There are a lot of things that are legal. So don't say, well, bankruptcy is legal. Sure it is. But there are a lot of things that are legal that are wrong. And so just because bankruptcy is legal doesn't make it moral, doesn't make it right. The wicked borroweth and payeth not again. And so there are some feasible, honest options. There are debt consolidation loans, lower interest, one payment, home equity loans, second line of credit, whatever it might be. Compare rates, compare points, compare fees, all of that. Make sure there's no prepayment penalty. Sometimes you might get a teaser interest rate from a credit card company, and they'll say 0% for 6 months or 9 months or 18 months or 24 months or 2% rate or 4% rate. Hey, if you're paying 19%, then that's a good deal for you. If they'll allow you to pay off another credit card with a 0% credit card or a 2% or 5% or whatever it might be, then that's going to save you a lot of money. Read the fine print, know what you're getting into. What will the rate be eventually? Is there a charge? If you'll have it paid off or almost paid off when the regular rate kicks in, you can save hundreds or thousands or sometimes tens of thousands of dollars. So if you've got yourself up to here, financial debt, and you're paying all these credit cards and you're trying to use credit cards to pay off credit cards, then get a consolidation loan. Get a new credit card comes in the mail and they say, oh, you have an introductory rate of thus and such. And you can use that. Then do it. And after a year and a half, maybe the rate jumps to 29% or something. But if you've already paid that way down, then you're going to be money ahead. But do some calculations, figure it out. Don't get suckered into a new deal that's not a good deal. And then do not go out and start charging on your new credit cards. Wow, they came with there's nothing on them so far. No, don't do that. But people do that all the time. So be prudent. Pay attention. Know what you're getting involved with. Know what interest rates you're paying. Proverbs 10:4 says, he becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand, but the hand of the diligent maketh rich. He becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand. He's not good in business. He's not good with finances. He's oblivious to it. He just knows he gets the bill every month and he pays the minimum, he sends it in. That's dealing with a slack hand. It's not being prudent. God wants us to be prudent. It's required in stewards a man be found faithful. One of the things you're to steward for the rest of your life is the money that comes into your hands. If you work at a business where you have something to do with the finances, you have to steward that. As pastor, I am going to give an account one day, not only for how I stewarded the money God gave me, but I have to give account for this church because I'm to oversee the church. Now, we vote on things, but we determine with the trustees and the men what we're even going to bring to vote. I'm accountable for that. I'm to steward that. And so you may have more than just your own personal finances, your business that maybe you're a partner with or you're helping with or you're under somebody and you're managing money. You're stewarding that. And it's required in stewards and men be found faithful. God's going to hold you accountable. One day you're going to answer for. You're going to answer for how you spend your time. You're going to answer for how you use the talents God gave you, the abilities, the opportunities. But you're certainly going to answer for how you steward the money that God entrusted to your care. So do it wisely. He becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand. The hand of the diligent maketh rich. And we'll talk about that later as far as being rich and having to steward that and how do we do that. And there's no sin in being rich. There's no crime in being rich. But a rich person can handle his money poorly just as well as a poor person can handle their money poorly. And so we want to be wise in that. Romans 12:11 says, not slothful in business. We need to be prudent. We don't do it for riches' sake. Proverbs 21:20, there is treasure to be desired and oil in the dwelling of the wise, but a foolish man spendeth it up. If it's there, he's going to spend it. And that's how a lot of people get in trouble. They get any extra money and then they want to go celebrate. They want to go, and like I said, they go out to dinner or they go out and do something else. They buy something they can't afford. A foolish man spendeth it up. So don't be foolish. Don't be foolish. Be wise. And we'll close with this. But Proverbs 27:23, be thou diligent to know the state of thy flocks and look well to thy herds. What's he saying? We don't measure wealth like they used to. We measure wealth by how much money there is in the bank or the retirement account or whatever it might be. But it used to be a man's wealth was measured by like his flocks and herds. And so we're told how many camels Job had, and we're told how many donkeys, and we're told how many sheep, because that was the measure of his wealth. And so basically what he's saying here is know how much money you have in your checking account. Know how much money you can afford to spend each month. Know how much money you have in savings. Know if you have a retirement account, know what you're doing with it. Know what your bills are. Know what the interest rate is on the credit card. Are you paying it off when it comes? Paying it off in full? Be diligent to know. So you don't have flocks and herds. Most people in here, you don't have sheep. And you say, well, I'm doing well. I have 50 sheep. You don't. So the way you're to be diligent, to use modern vernacular, is know where you are financially. Now, a lot of people, as soon as finances go south, they just kind of check out on even knowing. It's like, oh, if I don't know, he can't hurt me. No, it's going to hurt you more. And so if you're here tonight, you say, man, our finances are terrible, then go home and find out how terrible they are. It's the best thing you could possibly do tonight is lay out and find out how bad your finances are. And then if you have not been prudent, you've not been wise, you've not stewarded well, then ask God to forgive you for that, because that is sin. You're to give an account. You're to steward well. And then ask him for wisdom and how to get out of the hole, the mess you've dug. I know this hasn't been how to win friends and influence people message, but I want to help you financially, because we get ourselves in a lot of trouble and we waste a ton of money if we're not wise, if we're not prudent. And so if you say, man, I've messed up big time, okay, now you know, make course corrections, make changes. It doesn't do any good to hear a message and walk out and say, oh man, yeah, that's terrible. No, be a doer of the word and not a hearer. No, don't just be a hearer. Be a doer. And if you will covenant with God, say, Lord, I've messed up. I've been foolish with this. I don't want to be foolish anymore. I want to start being prudent. And you start being prudent, you'll be amazed what God will do. And you're faithful now in your finances, you'll be amazed what God will do to keep you from making foolish mistakes in the future. And finances is just one part of your life, but it's good every day when you get up and say, God, I'm not smart enough to run my own life. Please give me wisdom today. Please help me not make bad decisions. If we would have done that consistently, we might not have charged that credit card to the max. We might have stopped a long time ago and realized we got to pay off the balance every month. It's not wrong to have a credit card, but master it, don't let it master you. You master the card, don't let the MasterCard master you. Too many people, they think, oh, it's free money, it's plastic money. By the way, even those that pay it off every month, statistics say you will spend 26% more every month if you have a credit card. On everything, on whatever. Because it's just easy. It's not as painful as pulling money out. And so you pay the credit card bill, or you might pay it off every month. Say, I pay it off every month. But you might be spending more than you'd spend. Because we're a little bit removed from it by just paying, by tapping the plastic. So even if you have a credit card, and even if you pay them off, then be wise. Be wise in what you pay, what you spend. All right, I don't know how we give an invitation for this. If you've been bad with your money over here, if you've thought about declaring bankruptcy, this little pocket right here, I don't know. Well, we'll pray and we'll have an invitation. You can do whatever you want. All right? We got to land this plane. Let's pray. Lord, thank you for tonight. Thank you that you give us instructions about every area of life. Give us wisdom. Lord, help us to be willing to say we've done it wrong. We want to do it right. I pray that you'd bless this invitation. In Jesus' name, amen. With heads bowed and eyes closed, if you quietly stand.